All right, we have James Madison, a 9-point road favorite at Coastal Carolina. This game carries an over-under of 50.5 points, and there's a lot on the line in this one. So this is a fascinating matchup, given all the stuff around it. This game kicks off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2, and unlike last week, Kelly, we finally have some sensible broadcast choices. Put the most important games on national TV, and that's what they did. Thank you. It is a win and in for the Sun Belt Championship for Coastal Carolina. If they lose, then they need Georgia Southern to beat Appalachian State. Otherwise, App State's in the title game. Talk about coming a long way there. There's a couple of these teams that were like Arizona. It's like, wow, they're really in a position to make their conference title game despite some early season struggles. This is going to be, it's in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, mind you. Chilly, windy, and rainy. Not things that I typically associate with Myrtle Beach, or it's technically Conway, but Myrtle Beach. There's going to be highs in the low 50s, wind between 13 and 15 miles an hour sustained. There's a moderate rain chance. It's going to be kind of gross. Not your beach day. Grayson McCall, the quarterback for Coastal, won't play in this game. It was interesting. He suffered his injury several weeks ago, and they asked Tim Beck if he's going to play again for Coastal, and he said probably not. And yet I see reports every week saying that McCall's questionable this week. I'm like, are we sure about that? So I've already marked him on my injury sheet as out for the season, but I'm just reiterating he's not playing in this game. Now, the quarterback situation outside of him has been muddy for Coastal. Jarrett Guest played one great game. He missed another. It's been Ethan Vasco, but Vasco's questionable this week. It looks like it's going to be Guest. It's just, I don't know who's starting for this team week to week, and most people don't until we see who's taking the first team reps after kickoff. So do keep that in mind. App State just handed JMU their first loss of the season on game day. We all saw it, assuming you have ESPN+. But JMU held them to just 48 rushing yards. So it wasn't getting their brains blown in. They're still very good. Their defense is still elite, even without their top player. Now, Coastal has also lost last week, and I'm not really sure what the game plan was. And I've talked about Tim Beck and my not disdain, but distrust for him to call a competent game, but they never even attempted to establish a run game with Guest at quarterback, and guess what? They lost, and most of their scoring came from a few explosive plays. Now, if those explosive don't plays, then Coastal gets blown out by Army instead, and as good as JMU's defense is, they do allow explosive plays. They're 80th in 30-plus yard plays allowed this year, and Coastal is fourth nationally with 30-plus yard plays picked up. So I like Coastal with the points here as a home dog. I know James Madison's coming off that first loss with the vengeance, but look, their postseason hopes are dashed, although it is looking for them to get into a bowl game of some sort because we're not going to have enough eligible teams. And Coastal has just everything to play for at home. I'd even throw Coastal in an underdog money line round robin, potentially.
I think McCall, back to the McCall thing, I think if Coastal makes the Sun Belt Championship game, you're going to see every effort made for him to be ready to go in
Absolutely.
that one, which is why I think they're probably listing him, the way they are. But I don't disagree
That's
with you based on what he said
sure.
earlier. It makes sense why you've listed him that way. But just keep an eye if they actually make it. He'll probably give it a go if he's able to. I have James Madison -4. It's a 61% win expectancy. Coming off that heartbreaking loss to App State last week and with no postseason to look forward to officially, as you just mentioned, if we don't have enough eligible teams, they could find their way in there. But with no guarantee there yet, James Madison will be desperate to avoid finishing what's been a very magical season on a 2-game losing streak. Like they don't want that taste in their mouth of, hey, we didn't finish the job. Like let's end strong here in the regular season. My numbers give the Dukes the advantage on both sides of the ball. Both units rank in the 30s nationally, Brett. Like James Madison, they're just a really good football team. And again, I know they lost, but like this is a good football team who has really surprised this year. They're my top 10 overachievers list. Just a great season. As you said, winning in for Coastal. That's all a team can ask for in the final week of the regular season. I don't care how we got here. They were my preseason favorite in this division. And here they are with a chance to go get it done. So go do it. It's all you can ask for. You live for these situations as a player, as a coach. It's a tough task. But the Chants have only lost one time in Conway this season. That was way back in Week 4 against Georgia State. I think that's worth mentioning. Bottom line, James Madison -4 is what the model says. It's a 62% chance that the Dukes reach 11 regular season wins. Brett, that's something that the preseason projections assigned just a 2% chance to occur. Just phenomenal what James Madison's been able to do.
Yeah, and that Coastal loss back against Georgia State was, I still maintain that they changed offensive play calling because it's been night and day. And maybe, I don't know if this past, I don't want to just say every good game plan wasn't Tim Beck and every bad game plan was Tim Beck, but it seemed like they kind of reverted back to their early season offense against Army this week. But if it tells you anything about how good James Madison has been, I know that they have not been ranked in the CFP rankings because they're not eligible for the playoff. Therefore, the committee already said, hey, look, we're just not going to rank them. But even though they lost, they stayed in the AP top 25. That tells you something. That tells you that the perception of this team is they're very good, and they lost to a team that's hitting their stride. So